Welcome again, my dear students. Now I am going to start the explanation of the chapter Daffodils. Here, stanza 1. There are four stanzas in this poem. Now I am going to start stanza number 1. You please put your fingers on the lines of this poem. Here, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Here the poet is wandering. Students, the poet is wandering alone from one place to another, like a cloud. He says, I wander lonely as a cloud. He says here, the poet is wandering alone from one place to another, like a cloud which flies over valleys, that floats on high over vales and hills, which flies over valleys and hills with the flow of wind. With the flow of wind. When all at once I saw a crowd. Suddenly, I mean the poet. The poet sees a large number of golden daffodils. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. He says suddenly, the poet, the narrator, the poet sees a large number of golden daffodils. Daffodils are plants in the lily family with yellow flowers and a crown shaped like a trumpet. These daffodils are growing, he says, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. These daffodils are growing close to the lake. These daffodils are growing close to the lake and under the trees. A light breeze, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. A light breeze is blowing, making these daffodils dance and flutter it. The poet describes here how he walked around and felt as lonely as a cloud. Are clouds lonely? Well, maybe the ones that floats above valleys, vales, and hills are lonely. It is more likely that the poet is projecting his own loneliness on the clouds. Also, the cloud could be lonely because it floats over a natural landscape which is uninhabited. The word host and crowd mean pretty much the same thing. Here, the word host and crowd means pretty much and pretty much the same thing. We can assume he is walking in a fairly remote and wild part of the countryside. Fluttering suggests flight, which clouds bring us back to the birds or butterflies. Here, dancing is something that usually only humans do. The daffodils are given the qualities of humans and also of some kind of otherworldly creature, perhaps. Here, in stanza number 2, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The poet says the daffodils stretch all along the shore in one straight line that seemed to have no end. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line, the poet says. one straight line. The daffodils stretched all along the shore in one straight line that seemed to have no end. In fact, the poet compares the density of the daffodils to the density of the stars that form a part of our galaxy, the Milky Way, and that can be seen shining in the night sky. Right next to the lake, here he says, along the margin of a bay, 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. He says, right next to the lake, the poet thinks he sees at a glance as many as 10,000 daffodils, in a number of daffodils, and all of them seemed to be dancing in a cheerful and light-hearted manner, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. He says, and all of them, all the daffodils, seem to be dancing in a cheerful, in a happy mood, cheerful and light-hearted manner. The flower stretched continuously without break, like the stars in the Milky Way. They seem to stretch as far as the eye can see, means never ending. The flowers toss their heads while dancing in the wind. Stanza number 3. The waves beside them danced. They outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. The waves in the lake beside these daffodils, the waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. The waves, the poet says, the waves in the lake beside these daffodils are also dancing in the wind. But in comparison to the daffodils, the waves are not in glee, not in happiness. The waves expressed joy, but the joy that the flowers expressed was greater. Watching such a beautiful scene, the poet feels very happy. In such a jocund company, I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth thy show to me had brought. Watching such a beautiful scene, the poet feels very happy. The poet continues to look at the daffodils. The poet prizes the scene greatly for himself. The waves also dance in the breeze, the poet says here. But the daffodils seem happier than the waves, since waves do not bring as much as joy as the yellow flowers. The flowers outdid the waves in their happiness. The flowers are waves, feel like companions to him, and he is happy in their company. The repetition of gaze tells us that the kept, here you see, I gazed and gazed, but little thought. The repetition of gaze tells us that he kept looking at the flowers for a long time. Apparently, the poet doesn't think that he fully appreciated the vision at that time. He is not satisfied with the appreciation. He wants to appreciate more and more, more and more. The last stanza the poet says, for oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, there flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. Which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. The poet says that whenever he lies down on his couch, either thinking about anything or not thinking, the images of daffodils flash upon his imagination. It usually happens only when the poet is all alone. These images have a magical effect on the poet. They fill his heart with pleasure, with happiness. The poet also feels like dancing with the daffodils. Now the speaker explains why the daffodils were such a great gift to him. Now, when he lies on his sofa couch with his mind unoccupied, the picture of dancing daffodils comes before his mind's eye and the expression of joy returns. The inward eye expresses what Wordsworth felt to be a deeper, true spiritual vision. A person cannot share his or her own spiritual vision completely with others, and so it is a form of solitude. But its truth and beauty make it blissful. When the memory of the flowers and the lake flashes into his head, he feels happy again. He dances along with them. They are his cheerful companions, cheerful friend, companions once again. This was the end of the poem, students. If you have any problem, please ask me, and do not fail to ask me if you have any problem. You please come to school regularly if your parents allow you, and learn whatever is being taught nowadays in the school. Thank you so much, students. Thank you so much.